Yo, what is up everybody? We're back with another part to the What If Naruto THOR'S Power series. Last time we left off with Naruto obtaining the corrupted Mjolnir and eating with Ino and her family. Now before we get into this, I have a quick request. If you guys could comment your favorite anime main character of all time, it would help promote this video and more people will see it so I can get to my goal of 10k faster. Just like previous parts I've had you guys do. Now my personal favorite anime main C of all time is Lelouch from Code Geass. So without further ado, let's get into this part.
Thinking as I count these fucking days. Tell me if I'm looking better. Just the other night I was playing.
Now Naruto wakes up at 4:30. It's his average time for waking up. I better go on a run real quick. I may be going to class today, so I'm gonna be missing out on a lot of training. But I'll be able to train hard after school. I'll have to train harder, actually. He goes on his quick hour run. And after all, it was barely anything for him. He's able to run for about, probably a few days in a row with his stamina, especially since it's been pushed upward with his, abilities. And Mjolnir is actually something that helps wield his ability, so it doesn't have near as much of a fatigue for him mentally anymore, since he feels like this is going to reassure him in just more power. Now, he ends up walking towards what would be class, and he sees Ino. She's walking towards school as well. She runs over towards Naruto, holding what would be his lunch and hers. She says, "Here, Naruto. I made you a lunch." Naruto looks at her. "Oh, you still made one? Thank you so much." She's like, "No problem," as she blushes. She's like, "My father said he really had a good time last night." Naruto has flashbacks to what would be her father drunk, talking to him and telling him about when he was a young kid. Yeah, he's a pretty cool dude, not gonna lie. I've never had a friend that would bring me home. She's like, "Oh, I'm a friend, huh?" She's like, "Well, hopefully we can be more in the future." He's like, "What? What was that?" She's like, "Oh, nothing." They end up walking into class together. They're on time, perfectly, like right on time, right before the bell would ring. As he walks in, the whole class goes silent from their chatter. They look at Naruto and they begin murmuring, "Is that Naruto? Naruto hasn't been here in over 2 months." Iruka-sensei immediately looks at Naruto and he's like, "Naruto, where have you been? You haven't been to school in nearly 2 months." Naruto just says, yeah, I'm here now. That's really all that matters." Iruka-sensei says, "I don't like that attitude. You shouldn't be doing that. You should be on school every single day on time." Naruto's like, I know, but I was busy doing something, and honestly, it probably helped me out 10 times more than what you were gonna do. No offense." Iruka-sensei is taken aback by these words. He says, "Well, Iruka-sensei, since I'm here now, you mind letting me change my seating around? I'd rather sit next to Ino." Everyone's just like shocked by this, and Ino kind of blushes. She's like, "Yeah, me too. I'd rather sit next to Naruto." They end up being placed in the back. Now, they pay attention, mostly for the fact that Ino's helped Naruto pay attention. She's like, "Well, you need to pay attention in class because this will be very useful when it comes down to taking a chunin exams." Naruto's actually informed by that because, Ino would have a rough adjustment of time or a rough example due to her father being so high up in power. So he's like, "Oh, really? That's interesting. What happens if you're a chunin?" "Well, you gain a lot more power, or not really power, I'd say more mobility. You can do really whatever you want almost." She's like, Naruto's like, "Perfect. That sounds awesome. Honestly, I love freedom." She's like, "I know you do. I've noticed, seeing as how you don't really come to class unless you really want to." Naruto's like, "Yeah," as he scratches the back of his head. "That's kind of a bad tendency I have." Now, after class, Naruto's gonna end up walking outside. He already ate the lunch along with Ino during the lunch period. He's like, "Alright, well, I'm gonna be going to go train for a while. Make sure to go say hi to your parents for me." She's like, "Oh, well, I was hoping I could come." Naruto's like, "Well, normally I would say you can, but this one might be a little too dangerous. Make sure to come by tomorrow, though, because that would be better. I might have a rough estimate of how much power I have now." She's like, "Okay." Now, she's a little disappointed by this, but she understands completely why. After all, she did get to see a little bit of Naruto's abilities before he got the corrupted Mjolnir. Now, Naruto goes back to what would be his normal training ground. Everything around him was already incinerated at one point in time by his full power, or what he thought was his full power. But he decides he needs to move over more, just in case. Any more, and he might end up destroying half the village. That's from what he's thinking, after all. After all, most of his power comes from imagery, or what he perceives it as. If he wants to destroy something, he basically can. It's a mental blockage that prevents him from being basically undefeatable. But he ends up trying out his powers to such a degree where it ends up cracking the floors and lightning begins spurting up from there. Now Naruto doesn't even understand this. He's like, what? Hold on, I thought lightning came from the sky. Naruto's like, hold on, it's Mjolnir. As Mjolnir's on the floor, he slammed down the hammer, and it seems that it's just coursed so much lightning from it that the red lightning is coursing through the floor. Naruto's honestly astonished by this. He's like, this is awesome. Now, he ends up going by what would be Ino's house that night. He just can't wait to tell someone. He has to tell someone what he did. He knocks on the door, and her father answers. Oh, hello, Mr. Yamanaka. Is Ino around? He's like, yeah, she's upstairs. Do you need something? Oh yeah, well, I wanted to tell her about something, but I'm fine telling you too. He's like, oh, well, I'm glad that you trust me so much. Well, come on in, go ahead and tell me. So Naruto explains the entire ordeal, because honestly, he sees Ino's father as a kind of a close friend. He's a cool dude. So he kind of gets a bond with him and shows him what would be Mjolnir. Now Ino's father, he's like, well, boy, you could pick up a hammer like that? I feel like I can do it. If you can do it, I can do it. He runs over. He's been drinking a little, so he's a little tipsy. He tries picking it up, and he's like, oh, it must be the liquor, as he's unable to pick it up. He's like, here, let me grab my other hand, as he begins both pulling it up with all his force. It's not working. And then his veins are popping out on his forehead, and his wife's just laughing at him, as well as Ino. And Naruto's just like, here, it's all due to being worthy. Honestly, I'm not worthy, but I was able to get it because I corrupted it, apparently. It's probably due to the Nine Tails, to be realistic. He's like, oh, it does make sense. Well, I will say, this does sound like a fantasy, but I can't really argue with the evidence placed right in front of me, now can I? Naruto's like, nah, I guess you can't. As Naruto just picks it up with one hand. He's like, well, it was nice talking to you guys. I'll be going. Ino immediately grabs him, and she's like, hold on. Remember, Naruto, the academy test is tomorrow. You better pass. We've done a lot of work for this. Naruto's like, oh yeah, my bad. I'm gonna go home and study right away. Naruto goes home and studies for about an hour, and then he goes to sleep. He wakes up again at 4:30, goes and does his run, and then he would, proceed to go back to what would be the school. As he walks by, she comes across him around the same period as yesterday. She's like, alright, Naruto, are you ready? And it's like, for sure. I studied for a while, and I feel like I'm gonna pass this one in flying colors. And honestly, after you showed me how to do the clone jutsu, it wasn't that hard. I actually managed to do about 1,000 of them. I know they're just illusions, but imagine if they were actually physical manifestations. That would be pretty interesting. She's like, well, there is a technique called that. It's a forbidden jutsu. But it's really kind of a downside. You need so much chakra. Not just like, oh, I understand. I've actually done research and found out about that. But I was thinking more of like, what if I had lightning clones? After all, that doesn't take chakra. I mean, pardon me. After all, I have an infinite source of lightning. As he looks at Mjolnir. She's like, wow, that is quite interesting. We'll have to work on that. Naruto goes in, and as he's waiting in the line, it comes up to his turn. Everyone's expecting Naruto to fail. After all, he's always been bad at this. But Naruto just immediately says, you guys all might want to back up. I don't have a complete control of how many I can actually do at this time. Now, as they back up, they're not expecting how many Naruto would release. Around 100 pop up immediately, and the whole room's filled with what would be illusions. Now, they don't actually physically manifest on them. It's just, they look like it would scare them. So, everyone's impressed by this. Like, Naruto, how did you do that? And Sasuke's like a little jealous. He's like, damn, I don't know how this dude did this, but he's good. And they notice that Naruto's been carrying around a hammer, so they decided they'll ask him about it later. So after the test, or what would be during the lunch period, they ask Naruto, well, what's up with you carrying around that big-ass hammer? Well, it's simply because it's, my preferred weapon, Naruto would say. After all, he doesn't want to tell everyone what he did. They might be jealous, and he doesn't really care about them that much. He's like, well, it's just, my preferred weapon. They're like, well, it looks pretty heavy. How are you even doing it? And Naruto's like, well, I did build up quite a bit of strength. They're like, let me try. This would, of course, be what would be Kiba trying to pick it up. He can't even manage to move it a little. He's like, what is this? Why can't I move it? And then suddenly 2 more boys come over trying to help him out. This would, of course, be Shikamaru and Choji. Ah, come on, move out of the way, Kiba. You're hogging it all. As they all 3 try pulling it up, but they can't. They're like, what is this? How heavy is it? How are you doing this, Naruto? Naruto just kind of itches the back of his head. I don't know. It's just, I've been working on the strength. They're like, this isn't normal strength. This is uncanny strength. Not even we can get this. Yuruka-sensei, come try this out. Yuruka-sensei comes over trying to actually pick it up, but he's unable to. They all fail. And Naruto's like, yeah, that's pretty interesting, huh? Sorry for any background noise. Basically, it leads towards what would be them going towards the training grounds again after school. Naruto brings, of course, she just wanted to see what Naruto's capable of. After all, he described it to her after what would be during the nighttime. Now he shows her the exact same move again, but keeps her on his shoulders since he doesn't want her being affected by the lightning since he doesn't have full control of it yet. Now she sees this and she's immediately she's shocked. She's like, Naruto, how did you do that? Naruto's like, I don't know, but it's amazing, isn't it? She's like, I know, it's fucking awesome. So that would lead towards what would be... Actually, I'm gonna leave you off on a cliffhanger. You'll have to wait for the next part. What team will Naruto be placed on? Will he be placed on, the average Team 7 team? Or will he be placed on another team? You'll have to wait and find out for the next part. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on post notifications. Alright, I'm out.